Our government committee meeting of the Los Angeles City Charter Reform Commission. It is my pleasure to be here today as part of this committee. I am going to take a moment of privilege. As a former Recreation and Parks Commissioner, I used to visit all these facilities and know how important these facilities are for the community. So I want to thank the Recreation and Parks Department for opening up their doors here. I'd like to proceed and take roll call. Today we have Commissioner Robert Lewis.
Good morning. I am obviously present. Thank you,
very much.
Thank you to all who have attended this morning.
Commissioner Michael Yap will not be joining us this morning, and we'll get started. I do want to remind us that we are broadcasting live on Zoom. We also have, do we have interpretation today?
Yes.
We do, okay. Interpretation is available for anybody who needs it. Please make sure you check in. And also to note that public comment will be at the end of this meeting. It is my pleasure to welcome the council member for District 1, Councilmember Eunisses Hernandez. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Well, thank you.
Woo! We are doing something very exciting, which is breaking into the city constitution, its charter. How are we all doing today? Good. That's right. That's right. It's gonna be very intense. It can be very dry, but it's the most critical conversations that literally dictate how we can move as a city. So I'm glad y'all are engaged and pepped up for it. Thank you to our commissioners and for putting your time in, volunteering your time. Our executive director and our deputy director for being here. Our translation services here, thank you so much as well. And again, yes, to the Rec and Park staff that have come in to open up this facility. And apologies, I have a cold, so I'm gonna be a little slower this morning. But for too long, our government has been structured to insulate power from the people. Many of us in this room want to build systems based on transparency and accountability. And that starts with the most basic building block of democracy, which is representation. So expansion is important. And doing that must be surgical and it must be intentional. Because some of our departments already had the experience having 16 bosses, the 15 of the council and the mayor. And so as you're thinking, just be thoughtful. Think about the legislative process and how you want that to move so it can move the best for the city. We must amend the charter to empower our departments to handle routine approvals, streamlining government so we can all be more responsive to the communities we serve. And like I said earlier, that this is the constitution of the city, right? We don't crack this book open many times to do changes to it, to make changes to it. And I just wanted to highlight in this moment specifically with what's happening with federal immigration enforcement, the lack of transparency in our city budget and $1 billion deficit. These are the conversations that will hopefully prevent us from falling into another $1 billion deficit and actually give you more power over your own tax dollars. No area needs more responsiveness and more accountability than public safety, as it takes nearly a quarter of our entire city budget and 45% of your locally generated tax dollars, such as transportation tax and property taxes. Right now, the LAPD answers only to the mayor appointed board of police commissioners. And let me tell you, this has been a little bit difficult to deal with, particularly with the federal immigration raids. We're trying to pass motions to have LAPD identify federal agents, have LAPD set policies around not engaging or enabling unconstitutional acts. As a council member, I have to draft a motion to get the Board of Police Commissioners to do the thing and write the policy so that LAPD does what we all want it to do. And I put those motions in months ago, and I'm still waiting for this to happen. And so I really ask that you all look at a path for joint oversight so that we have multiple people at the table to hold the department accountable, and that the council can work directly with the police department. We must also demand the same accountability from our city's budget. I think there's a few of you in this room who have participated in the Budget 101 trainings that I give annually, and so you see where your tax dollars go to. But other than that, have you ever had a moment where you know where your tax dollars go to? Before that? Not really. And I believe that because the city runs on your tax dollars, that we should have those trainings, but also the budget process to be open to people. And I'm sorry if I'm going over time, I'm almost done. It's so critical right now. You know, what you all are doing is so critical. Our city is facing a structural financial crisis, yet our budget process remains profoundly opaque, especially to you all. Right now, the charter does not even require that our public financial data be made easily accessible to the public. How can the public participate in a process they are not allowed to see, especially with your tax dollars? Whether we keep an annual budget or explore a 2-year cycle, we must amend the charter to mandate that budget data and public input methods are open, clear, and accessible to every Angelino. Finally, our charter must be a tool that unlocks our ability to invest in our communities. For example, did you know that we have 2 asphalt factories here in the city of Los Angeles where we produce our own asphalt? We actually recycle the asphalt that we take up, process it, and then make new asphalt. So not only are we recycling better for the environment, but we're also saving money. We, as a city, cannot sell our asphalt. It's one of the things that the city is limited in doing and generating revenue. And that's just one example of how the charter limits the city's ability to grow its budget. And I think that should be looked into. We have corporations making money off our sidewalks with robots that deliver food, taking jobs away and making money off our sidewalks. You have Waymos making money off our asphalt. They're heavier electric vehicles. They're not paying to redo our asphalt at all. So we need to find the ability to do that as a city. And right now the charter limits that. And so we must amend it to make a clear path for future revenue generation for infrastructure. We must provide our city with the necessary tools to fund asphalt, for example. We have a unique and historic opportunity to modernize the charter, to make it a document that builds community power, that demands accountability, and that gets us closer to creating a government that is truly of the people. I look forward to working closely with this committee and all of you to deliver real, meaningful change to the people. Again, thank you so much for investing your time and energy in making this happen. And apologies for my delivery. I have a cold. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez, for opening up the doors in your district, and we certainly hope that you feel better.
Thank you so much.
On the contrary, thank you so much. Next on our agenda is the Neighborhood Council comments, community impact statements. Yes, I will also remind folks that we do have interpretation available for anybody who needs it. And is anybody here from our Neighborhood Council for comment? Great, I'll table it, perhaps they show up later. Okay, we'll move forward. I do want to remind us that the City Charter Reform Commission is meeting regularly. This is the first committee meeting for the Better Study Session for Better Government. These sessions are meant for us to look at information related to ethics and anti-corruption measures, neighborhood councils, and the removal and discipline of elected officials. So without a doubt, this is just one of the committees that are being held and have been formed by the City Charter Reform. Remind everybody that's here, thank you for your time. It's so important that you continue to engage and you get your family and friends, let them know that this is happening. As Councilmember Hernandez did say, this, we're opening up that book. It hasn't been done since 26 years ago, and looking at what needs to be reformed and looked at. So we deeply appreciate everybody's time. Without further ado, I'd like to call up Common Cause Sean McMorris, who's going to be giving our first presentation. Apologize. Sean, thank you so much. Again, taking your time out of a Saturday morning, we are making some adjustments to be flexible. Coming up first is Carmen Chang from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Carmen?
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning to everybody. Happy Saturday. Thank you as well for making time, allowing flexibility in the schedule for a busy day of events. So my name is Carmen Chang. I'm the general manager of the Empower LA, or the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. And it's a pleasure to return to the commission. Thank you again as well for your service. Thanks for hosting us. And I wanted to just acknowledge an audience today. We do have Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. We have Doug Epperhart, who represents the Harbor region, as well as Ray Regalado, who is a former president of the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. currently a president of Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, as well as others that are online. Is anyone else from a neighborhood council in the audience today? Raise your hand. We've got a good number. Thank you so much for being here as well. So I'm here today. There was a discussion at a previous commission meeting about demographics, makeups, and incidents related to discrimination in the neighborhood council system. So I'm happy to address any issues or questions that commissioners may have. I believe all the contents are on the website for reference, but I sent over a letter to you all in early October to talk about questions. And please, commissioners, if please feel free to stop me at any point, but I can go over the contents of the letter. So in terms of the question of what are the demographics of neighborhood councils? So, there's about 1,800 board seats across the city, 99 neighborhood councils. Again, these are neighborhood council board members that devote a lot of their unpaid time to serve back into the neighborhoods. We have about 1,600 filled seats. We had a round of neighborhood council elections, as folks may know, this year from January until about June. And so while this system has been in place for over 25 years now, of course, with, from the first 1999 charter reform, we have not had the mandate to track demographics, and so it has not been something we've done from the department on a consistent basis, but we do recognize the importance of tracking that. And so, there have been some discussions over my, almost 2 years here as the general manager. There is a council file that's from Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez in CD7. That's Council File 24-0867, which is, asking us to start tracking things like number in the 99 neighborhood councils, how many of them have youth seats, how many of the neighborhood councils have term limits, etc. So we're trying to get into a better mode of tracking information about neighborhood councils. I mentioned there's also a survey that we sent out to neighborhood councils last year through a partnership with Listen for Good. And we did get 100% feedback. And I'll preface it by saying we didn't get 1,600 or 1,800 responses, but we got at least one response from all 99 neighborhood councils. And there's information there. And I mentioned since we had elections starting this past July, and hopefully folks have been joining some of our civic leadership sessions, learning sessions or trainings, but we've also started collecting that data. So the data generally, and from this, again, this is not all comprehensive, but it's the data that we can track. It's generally voluntary. Folks, we can't require folks to respond if they don't want to, but generally it does skew a little older, so the age ranges of 55 to 64, as well as 35 to 44, and a little bit in between. It is generally, 50 to 60% predominantly white based on the responses that we've received. And the Listen for Good survey that we did, 97% were English speakers. And I think off the bat, we would still need to do some more surveying and, collecting of data. But I think when you think about the makeup of 4 million Angelinos, that's likely not as representative, right, of, everybody in the city. So there's definitely more work to be done to ensure representation and inclusivity. So I mentioned, of course, as we're collecting this sort of data, if the commission would like, any of these, once we finalize, for example, the listening survey, please let us know. We're happy to share out a copy, as well as we are working with the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners on that council file to Councilwoman Rodriguez. And once that is also finalized, I'll be also happy to share that out. The next section, I believe, was a question related to number of complaints related to discrimination. So I asked my team, the department tracked the past 2 calendar years, so 2025 and in 2024, and always happy to share more data from previous years if you would like. In this current 2025 calendar year, we've received 5 total complaints were referred. 2 of them were discrimination complaints. And in the 2024 calendar year, out of a total of 11 complaints, there were 5. In these matters where they were received, all parties were neighborhood council members. I will note that, the ones that were non-discrimination cases, they have involved whether it was city staff or department staff, and a stakeholder. So, but that's not the discussion at hand today. In terms of dealing with discrimination complaints, so as our department, as well as all the other city departments, we refer cases. Well, when any member of a neighborhood council or city staff or an employee, right, or commissioners feel that they've been discriminated against or subject to harassment, there is the My Voice LA portal that is out there for folks to complete. And so when a complaint is submitted, the personnel department oversees the My Voice LA portal, and that's handled by the Office of Workplace Equity. So when that happens, that office, we call OWE under the personnel department, they look at the cases and they decide, and you should have a copy of the workplace equity policy. It kind of lays out these parameters, what are these protected categories, what is harassment, what is discrimination, etc. So they look at these complaints and they say, some of them we're gonna hold, we're gonna do our investigation, and the other ones will get referred back to the department. And so, they are the experts when it comes to handling the cases, and of course, us as a department as well as the others, we do the follow-ups when these complaints are referred back to our department. So I have a team, a very, very small team that do handle these complaints when they get referred back to us. But I will note that it does take a while. We do encourage, as part of our training, city staff especially, if you do hear of, especially as a supervisor, if you know that there is, someone's experienced something, it is, either the person, they can file the My Voice LA complaint, or as a supervisor, it is on us to file it on their behalf. If we hear of something, we have to take some action. But we do preface it, it may take a while. It's because of staff capacity. We know in addition to ours, I don't know if folks I'm sure are paying attention to what's been going on with the budget over the past few years and layoffs and things like that. Our department has been affected by lack of staff and capacity, as well as the personnel department. So it does take, I asked my team to share an average of 2 to 4 months for basically OWE to receive that complaint, make that determination, and then tell the department, hey, this case we're referring back to you. And then, to determine which department will handle the complaint. If OWE conducts the investigation themselves, it's, generally could take about 6 to 12 months to complete and, to finalize and make recommendations. In most cases, as I note, OWE does refer complaints back to us for investigation because they did not identify a substantiated claim of harassment or discrimination based upon a protected class. And so when it does come back to us, we do a comprehensive investigation. Again, it takes a bit, and we actually, unfortunately, tell folks you have to, be aware that it is going to take a while, just because we don't actually have an official person at hand. We have a personnel lead, but that's not his, day-to-day job. But we do take it seriously. We do prioritize it when it comes to us, and there are cases where we can't just, as a department, make the do the investigation. We have to consult with other city departments, such as the City Attorney's Neighborhood Council Advice Division, which is called NCAD, as well as the City Attorney's Office of Labor Relations. Sometimes, it may not be discrimination related, but it could be, and it could be other types of cases like threat related or otherwise. So we, because we're not the experts on those topics, so we defer to them on guidance, especially when it comes to policy and legal standards. From the department, I mentioned lack of capacity. We do want to make sure that cases are handled in a timely manner. We do prioritize that, but sometimes it just takes a bit, because even, for example, when it comes to investigations, when it comes to us, we reach out to the neighborhood council board members. We try to do a thorough one. In some cases, we do wait for the response time of hearing back from the neighborhood council. Hey, we want to do an interview. You're perhaps at this meeting or incident at this date and time. Are you available for us to conduct, to chat with you all over the phone or on Zoom? So, collecting all that information from everybody does take up a bit. But, we also understand that, folks want to know, and we filed the complaint. We want things to be settled as soon as possible. And we definitely agree with that. But it's just, we don't have the staff capacity is really what I'm trying to get at. I'll say this past cycle of the budget, we did go through a round of layoffs. There have been some updates there, but we also had vacant positions. We had one vacant position that was supposed to handle dispute resolutions. We were really looking for someone with an expertise to handle mediation, especially for neighborhood council board dynamics. It was a civil service position. It was titled the Senior Management Analyst 1, but even before this past round of layoffs and cuts, we just could not fill that position because it took, the position had been vacant for about 3 years. And this, today I'm not gonna go through the civil service, because that's not the discussion today, but we just have not been able to fill it because it's a unique skill set in working with neighborhood councils and, focusing on things like mediation, addressing board dynamics, etc. So that does also contribute to delays. I also point to, there are other tools, important ones to address, basically to prevent as much as possible before incidents do happen, trying to be as proactive as possible. But also, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners have what's called the BONC Code of Conduct Policy. So if you're a neighborhood council board member, within 30 days, you have signed off to say that I've done this. And in addition to that, it's to uphold workplace equity. That handout, the Code of Conduct, should be in your packet of documents. A few questions about that, but it's to uphold workplace equity. It does point to that LA Workplace Equity Policy document under personnel, and address discrimination in the NC system. Other ways to combat issues are the BONC censure policy regarding misconduct, as well as the BONC removal policy. If basically the censure hasn't worked and there needs to be rise to a level of removal. I'll say too that we've been talking to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners about amending, doing another amendment to the existing Code of Conduct, about what that looks like to just make sure that we have a fair, representative, and inclusive neighborhood council system. And I know I'll say too, even on a call we had late last week, one of our commissioners mentioned, and she told me, she's fine to use her name, Commissioner Karen Waters. She said, hey, when I was on a neighborhood council, I also experienced some case of racism. I reached out to the city, so our department as well as city attorney's office and others, very supportive. And so I'll say too that it may not be the case that everything that complaints that are filed, we encourage them to go through the formal process of filing into My Voice LA, but not everybody will file it, right? Our staff will get, complaints, and we try to do the follow-up. We try to encourage the filing of My Voice LA. Also know that there's likely, I've heard too, fear of retaliation. So folks may, whether it's neighbor council or staff or etc., may not feel comfortable putting their names out there, even though it can be anonymous, but they don't feel comfortable filing into My Voice LA. But what I'm describing today, are the number of cases that we do have on record. But going back to working with the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, it is a board that, sets the policy for the neighborhood council system, and so, we do talk about working on establishing, guidelines for the future. And the last thing I'll say, another avenue that, if it's operational, if that, let's say a neighborhood council board member or a stakeholder feel that the neighborhood council's bylaws or its standing rules or all these, whether it's the city's administrative code or the neighborhood council plan or a bond policy, if anything, these things have been broken, they can submit concerns through Empower LA's grievance portal. And just, I know there's lots of questions about that, about grievances. So I'll just say this while I'm here. Grievances can only be filed against a neighborhood council body as a whole, not against an individual. So that's what we wanted to share out in terms of the questions that commissioners may have had, but I can take a pause here and also, happy to answer questions. And I'll note too, I've got my expert colleague here, Tom Soon, in the room from my department as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chang. Really appreciate it. Do we have any questions, Commissioner Lewis?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear on the numbers. You said in 24, I think, 6 complaints, 2 were discrimination based, and
We had 5, yes. In 2024, we had 11 complaints, and 5 of them
5.
were related to discrimination.
I thought that was year 24. Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. Is there a trend or some common thread you see with the discrimination complaints at all, or are they all kind of all over the map?
I mean, the ones that we have seen when they've been, the allegation category tends to be gender or race, so that tends to be the theme. I'll say in a board, whether it's 1,600 or 1,800, and again, prefacing that we don't have all the data, not everyone files a My Voice LA complaint, but we do the thorough follow-up, and but it is, I'm glad that 1,600 board members are not experiencing discrimination, and and that's a good thing. We do make sure that our staff is big on making sure that we're prioritizing whether they're learning sessions or neighborhood councils coming together. We're launching a series related to how to do effective communication, especially for a new board member. It's very new to be a part of the city and understanding how to communicate with city staff or city departments. Etiquette as well, and then as well as addressing board dynamics. I know that for some of our commissioners, making sure that boards get together, whether it's in the form of board retreats before they face a public meeting where folks want to get along with one another before really serving the public. That's important to some of our commissioners as well. So we try to be as proactive as we can. But in an ideal world, right, we would have the funding and mechanisms necessary for us to do things like offer more trainings, have more funding in place. And when I come here to the meeting, it's nice there is language and interpretation available for folks that speak languages outside of English, and we have boards that have the same, but it's the pot of money that makes it, it's tough for 99 neighborhood councils to, when we think about true representation, language access is really important too. So that's what we strive for.
One other question, I think. So you said there are about 1,800 seats across all 99 councils. It's about an average of 18 per, but does it play out that way in reality? Are the number of seats about the same each council, or is it very
it's all different. It ranges from about 9 board seats to about 35 board seats. So it's up to the neighborhood council to decide their number of board seats.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have some questions. Out of the 1999 charter reform, the neighborhood councils were born. Do you feel that the intended purpose has been fulfilled 26 years later?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. There's definitely improvements to be made. But I know that when we sat down last December, we celebrated 25 years of the neighborhood council system. We did have Dr. Rafe Sunshine speak to us, and he said, and I don't know if he mentioned this to you all as well regarding neighborhood councils, was that at the time he said, we created this charter, we didn't really know what to expect. We weren't sure if it was going to last 5 years or 6 years, but he said the fact that it's now over 25 years is truly remarkable. It's considered the nation's largest grassroots civic engagement model. I've had other neighborhood programs in different cities ask questions about our model here, what we do, things like the annual Congress of Neighborhoods that take place led by neighborhood council leaders. It is inspiring because it's great to see all the wonderful changes, advocacy, community work that takes place. But certainly, we do need to address when there are issues that come up much more proactively.
Appreciate that very much. We also know that you presented to us in the learning session at Loyola Marymount about, a month and a half ago now, where you did propose some changes to the language. So we are taking that into consideration and appreciate you and your staff's work into this. What we keep on hearing are the issues and allegations of discrimination, and while the numbers and data remain low, I wonder if it discourages folks from filing complaints, given the fact that it takes 6 to 12 months to look into a complaint. And we know that we're being asked to do more with less, but I also feel that we really need to address that because it may turn people off from participating in the neighborhood councils where it needs to be hyper-local, uber-local as it relates to the issues going on within that neighborhood. So that's more of not a question for the most part. I do have a question on how do you fulfill a broad representation versus the vocal few that we typically see in neighborhood councils?
Yeah, I think the importance of, at least from the department's perspective, really, I come from a community organizing background, and so I think it's really important, to meet people where they are, right? And so yes, I hear the voices of some few, but I do think it's important to really do the outreach, proactive approach of, the importance of hearing from everybody. Not in addition to the 16 to 1800, it's also talking to what we call stakeholders, all Angelenos, right? Hey, there's a place for you here. We want to develop that leadership pipeline. I think I mentioned a month and a half ago. Here's an opportunity to, make a difference at the hyper-local level when you may think that, what is going on, and whether it's the federal or other places where I feel a little bit more helpless, here's a place where you can actually make a difference. And I do think that that's our staff coming out. We do have a field staff that come out to support neighborhood councils, but it's offering, hey, these learning sessions or trainings, but it's almost, when we talk about the importance of civic engagement, a lot of it is like a civics 101 of sorts to newer board members, but especially the Angelenos. We focus a lot about, and I think Councilmember Hernandez also just referred to the importance of budget and budget advocacy, right? When we say these are your tax dollars at work, you really shouldn't, say I'm going to focus on other things. You can make a difference in your community. The first thing you do is stay engaged and speak up, right? Attend a neighborhood council meeting, and so for us, just really going out there and doing that outreach, encouraging neighborhood councils to partner with us. Some already do some really wonderful outreach work as it is, and it's just us supporting them, but. Really making sure that we're talking to, I know it's a tall order, but with the 4 million, maybe 3.5 million Angelenos out there.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Commissioner Lewis, any more questions?
No. We could talk for a while about this topic.
We look forward to continued conversations as we move forward. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to call up Sean McMorris from Common Cause. Please help yourselves to some hospitality in the back. We've got bagels and coffee and tea.
Great. Good morning, commissioners and members of the community. Thank you for coming out and participating in this important process. I'm going to talk a bit about some reforms that deal with transparency, accountability, and I will touch upon some government structure things that also are relevant to ethics reforms and public participation and whatnot. But I'll take questions at the end, but if for any reason there's a topic I touch upon that you'd like to talk about, just let me know and I'll pause and we can go over that. So that said, here are the topics we'll be quickly covering today. Some of them may overlap with government structure reforms, but still qualify as good governance reforms. Similarly, some of these topics may overlap, given that their functions are similar in nature. Next slide, please. Council size. So we believe that the size of the city council should increase to deepen the connection between council members and residents in their community, and to ensure that council offices can be more responsive to residents. Currently, of the top 10 major cities, Los Angeles has the greatest resident to representation ratio at approximately 264,000 residents per council district. This is not ideal for robust representation. One of the most important reforms this commission could recommend is an increase in the number of city council members representing Angelenos. We believe that council size should increase and adjust each decade based on districts that are no larger than 150,000 residents, which is close to the average council size of the other 10 largest cities in the U.S. Next slide. To increase the Ethics Commission's independence from the city officials it oversees, it should have the authority, through a supermajority vote of the Ethics Commission, to place measures that amend ordinances under its purview directly on the ballot. San Francisco's Ethics Commission has such an authority, and it has worked well. This can be done in a way that allows the public and elected officials to weigh in, but the ultimate decision on reform language and ballot placement should be with the Ethics Commission. Even though a majority of the City Council ultimately rejected this reform in 2024, it is a good government reform that ought to be revisited and approved. Next slide. In 2024, the City Council ultimately rejected then Council President Krikorian's recommendation to expand the LA City Ethics Commission from 5 to 7 members as part of Measure ER. The proposal included 2 of the commission members to be appointed by the commission itself through a public application and review process. This expansion was intended to enhance discussion within the commission and increase its independence from the elected officials it oversees. It remains a good reform that ought to be revisited. Oakland's Public Ethics Commission uses a similar model. Next slide. Ethics reform, Measure ER in 2024 provided the commission with a secured budget unless exigent circumstances arise. However, the yearly adjustments based on the previous year's city revenue are unclear and not ideal. It would be more suitable to adjust the commission's annual budget according to changes in the Consumer Price Index, which aligns with the commission's method for adjusting contribution limits and maximum penalties. Furthermore, the commission's budget does not currently account for additional tasks added to its mandate. The minimum secured budget for the commission should be adjusted annually to reflect both CPI and any new duties assigned to it. Additionally, the term exigent circumstances should be clearly defined in the charter, and a showing should be presented to the public when the term is invoked. This would provide accountability and serve as a check on the capricious use of the term. Next slide. Prohibiting gift giving to city officials from lobbyists and lobbying firms who are registered with the city, while allowing those lobbyists, clients, and employers to give gifts to the same city officials is a significant loophole in the city's lobbying law. This loophole could easily be plugged by adding the employers and clients of locally registered lobbyists to the city's restricted sources list. Next slide. The Ethics Commission should have discretion to raise the city's inflation-adjusted campaign contribution limits. While pegging contribution limits to the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, prevents them from becoming too low over time, it also can result in limits becoming too high over time. CPI is a metric for the cost of living, not political giving. It likely does not accurately reflect the amount most voters are willing to give to a political candidate, nor does it account for the fundamental purpose of contribution limits, which is to encourage candidates to rely on small dollar support from everyday constituents, rather than a narrow set of wealthy donors whose interests may diverge from those of most Angelenos. For these reasons, the Ethics Commission should be granted discretion on when to adjust the contribution limits based on CPI. Doing so will allow the Commission and public to consider other variables relevant to political giving, such as poverty rates, average incomes, unemployment, wage growth, disposable income, or the average local contribution from LA residents. Next slide. With the passage of Measure ER in 2024, the City Council is now required to hold a public hearing on Commission policy proposals within 180 days of their submission. However, the Council is still not required to vote on those proposals. This allows the City Council to delay Ethics Commission policy proposals indefinitely, which they have done in the past. The City Council should be required to vote on Ethics Commission policy proposals within 180 days of their submission, as well as was recommended by the LA City Ethics Commission, community advocates, and the City Council President in 2024. Next slide. LA's ethics and accountability laws are rarely updated to account for loopholes and to stay current with the times. This has resulted in certain laws, like the city's municipal lobbying ordinance, becoming outdated and less than ideal. The reluctance to update and improve such laws is often the product of a lack of political will or powerful special interests who want to shape these laws to their advantage. Thus, the City Council should be required to review and update city ordinances under the Ethics Commission's jurisdiction at least once every 10 years. Any amendments should further the intent and purpose of the laws, and the Ethics Commission should provide the initial recommendation for these updates. Next slide. We recommend that the city consider instituting a people-only campaign contribution system similar to the County of San Diego's, where only individuals/humans, not entities, can contribute to local political campaigns. This will increase transparency and accountability in Los Angeles politics. It will also help the Ethics Commission in its oversight and enforcement duties by eliminating the need for staff to track down who operates an entity, which is often impossible if an LLC is established outside of California. Next slide. Bundling is the act of a third party collecting campaign contributions from others and delivering them to a campaign. Currently, Los Angeles prohibits direct contributions from registered lobbyists and lobbying firms, but not bundling from those parties. Prohibiting registered lobbyists and their employers from contributing to the campaigns of the offices they lobby while allowing them to bundle contributions from others is a loophole in city law that should be plugged. Next slide. Personal liability serves as a strong deterrent against misconduct and encourages respondents to take ethics laws more seriously. However, city law allows candidates and office holders to pay most penalties for ethics and campaign finance violations with campaign funds. This decreases deterrence and creates opportunities for pay-to-play. A better approach would be to prohibit or limit candidates and office holders from using campaign funds to pay fines when it is determined that the violation is the result of malicious intent and or the respondent attempted to obstruct the investigation. Next slide. Los Angeles makes critical decisions that affect millions of residents. Those decisions require accurate, timely, and accessible data. Right now, the city lacks a centralized hub for collecting, analyzing, and sharing that information. A city data bureau would fill that gap. By consolidating expertise in demographics, statistics, mapping, and data analysis, the bureau could support a range of city functions, including redistricting as well as budgeting and research across different city departments. Centralizing this work would improve accuracy, strengthen transparency, and ultimately save the city money. Next slide. Democracy works best when everyone can participate. Today, residents who want to speak at city council or commission meetings must take time off from work, travel downtown, and wait for hours for a chance to be heard. That barrier shuts too many people out of the process and limits voices who shape city policy. We know there's a better way. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Los Angeles and cities across California successfully offered remote public comment. The technology and infrastructure exists. What's missing is the will to make it permanent. Next slide. I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. We will reserve that for public comment at the very end to address some of those issues for members of the audience. Thank you, Mr. McMorris. Can you, first of all, tell us a little bit about Common Cause?
Sure. Yeah, we are a national nonprofit organization. We're considered what's called a good government nonprofit. We focus on transparency and accountability in government. We also work on in the election area, ensuring that everyone who wants to participate can. We were formed during the Watergate scandal, and now we have a national office, but we also have offices in about 30 different states.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Commissioner Lewis, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, very helpful, a lot to absorb. The piece about the people-only finance system, that resonates with me in particular. I get it, the rationale that you described, I think it makes sense for sure. Conversely, I'm looking at it from the perspective of individuals who, for whatever reason, they may have good reasons for not wanting to disclose their political leanings or preferences. What's the potential harm or implications for people who may fall into that category?
Well, I would say that participating in political giving, one of the few checks that we have left due to Supreme Court rulings is transparency. And Common Cause was formed around that during the Watergate era, when a lack of transparency on who was giving really created a lot of issues. So I understand that certain people may not want to put their name and public information. They're allowed to give up to $99 and not have their information disclosed. Anything over that, they do have to disclose their name and their occupation and address. I would say though, with the city's matching funds program, you can give $99 and that will be matched 6 times. And if someone is concerned about privacy or anything like that, they do have that option to give less than $100. But we do think it's important that disclosure remains. And we get why some people may not want to do that.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the city data that you're recommending. Are there other examples in other cities where this has been implemented and it's worked?
There are. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that this was researched last year during Measure R. So I can look into that and go back and look at our information and send you, email you and the commission more information about that.
Thank you. I also resonate with what Commissioner Lewis said on people-only contributions. It is, from a transparency standpoint, it's unfortunate that now campaigns with the most amount of money sometimes don't always get you elected, but definitely the loopholes that exist definitely need to be addressed. I have one more question on Measure ER. You mentioned that Council President Krikorian had put forward a proposal to increase the Ethics Commission from 5 to 7. Do you remember why it was rejected?
I do. There were a lot of, so the initial Measure ER proposal in our mind was significantly better than what was put on the ballot. They did include on the original Measure ER, allowing the Ethics Commission to place measures on the ballot. They also had on there the increased size of the Ethics Commission. And to be frank, 11th hour lobbying from powerful special interests prevented that from happening. Essentially, a lot of work from the community and organizations like ourselves went into that process. We were very hopeful. And essentially the week before, some special interests lobbied up, and it seemed to have been very successful in preventing some of those things from happening, which is unfortunate, which is also why I'm recommending you revisit some of those reforms.
Appreciate that very much. Also want to mention that the issue of council size is being looked at by our governance structure committee. We do encourage you to come and present to them as well, but definitely welcome your recommendations. Any further questions?
Well, piggyback on the previous question. So the $99 threshold you mentioned, is that federally mandated? Is it city mandated? Where does
That's state law.
That's state law.
And so even if you don't move to a people-only system, anyone who gives over $100 still have to provide identifying information. Even if you're an entity, you have to provide your entity name and address, but also what is required, and this is why the people-only system is also beneficial. If you're an entity, in terms of contribution limits, if I own Acme Goods and I give $500 from Acme Goods and then I myself give $1,000, those contributions have to be accumulated. They cannot be accounted as separate. So they have to, sometimes that process gets very convoluted and difficult, and often it also ends up in some candidates, well-meaning candidates, not realizing they've gone over the contribution limit because they don't know the connection between these businesses and the people who've given to them. So, but that $99 threshold is state law, and it's in the Political Reform Act. So,
All right, thank you.
mm-hmm.
Thank you. No further questions from me.
All right.
Thank you so much, Mr. McMorris. Our last presentation before public comments will be from Roxana Tynan, thank you, from the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Roxana. I'm a senior advisor at the LA Alliance for a New Economy, and we are an organizing and advocacy group here in LA, been around for about 30 years. We do direct community and worker organizing and also work in coalitions with other community groups and other unions. And I'm here today to talk to you about why our coalition would like to see principles around the use of new technology like artificial intelligence embedded into the city charter. And to be clear, I am not an AI expert. I cannot talk to you about algorithms or anything else, but what I can talk to you about are what some of the current impacts are on communities and workers, things that people are already experiencing. So in December, we are going to have a panel of proper experts come and speak about, in some more depth, about what we see as these impacts and ways to mitigate them. But I wanted to just set a kind of broad introduction about why we're worried and why we think it's important to do this. So, as we all know, artificial intelligence is everywhere. It's predicting the weather. We're using it in ChatGPT. My kids are chewing on their school essays with it. And we want to make sure that the real benefits of this new technology have that we take advantage of those, but we also want to protect against some very real harms. And recognize that how technology is used is not inevitable. It is a function of power in a society to see how that tech is used and who benefits from it. And luckily, with these kinds of processes, and thank you guys for the time that you spend on this good government, but with these kind of democratic processes, we can really build a shared vision for what that common good is. Again, take advantage of the best that AI has to offer. We want our city to be a model for the responsible use of new technology, both in the public sector and also a model for the private sector as well. And embedding these principles in our charter is going to allow our current and future elected leaders to really have a roadmap for how to regulate the use of new technology in the interests of the common good. The good news is the city has already done some work on this, on which we can build. The Information Technology Agency of the city has a digital code of ethics that lays out some useful principles and guardrails, but we think lacks the force of law and a really rigorous process for ongoing public engagement and accountability. So it's a great starting point for us. And when we talk about AI, we're trying to use the most expansive vision of what that is. So it's everything from machine learning tools that help with traffic signal optimization to more problematic predictive policing software. The city's now using AI to help draft emails, which is great, respond to customer complaints, and determine eligibility for benefits. And there is, as you guys know, a really high level of distrust in AI from the public for a good reason, whether it's deep fakes or legitimate fears of surveillance or experiences of bias and discrimination as a result of the new tech. And we don't want to obscure the good stuff that we can get out of it, but we really want to look at the examples from around the country of some of the problems that are happening. So whether it's in hiring, a University of Washington study looked at a bunch of AI hiring tools that rank resumes and found that people with white associated names were 85% more likely to move to the top of the list, and people with male associated names were 52% more likely to get an interview. Loans, looking at different loan programs around the country, 40 to 80% more white folks are 40 to 80% more likely to meet the standards, so-called standards for those loans, than applicants of color, even with similar financial situations. And in terms of benefits, we've consistently seen real problems. In Michigan, 40,000 people wrongfully lost their unemployment benefits as a result of the new automated decision system being implemented. The system had cost the state $78 million and then cost them additional $20 million to solve the lawsuits that came about as a result. Florida, like many states, is using a tool called Compass to make decisions about who should get released on bail pre-trial and who has to stay in, and found that African Americans were routinely given a higher risk score despite, similar risks from other folks facing trial. Recently, the city of New York used a new program called ShotSpotter. They spent about $54 million on this pilot, and they place microphones in quote-unquote high-risk neighborhoods to hear for gunshots. And unfortunately, the system just doesn't work, and fewer than 20% of the times that police were called out were actual gunshots. In Chicago, cops were getting 60 false alarms a day from the use of the same system. So if the list goes on and on, there are real problems that remind us that A, there's some tech we shouldn't be using, and a lot of tech that really requires human oversight. Because the challenge is not just that those folks were related, but people were harmed by the use of this tech. But it was a huge cost for the government, both in terms of the initial outlay and liability. The truth is there's just, a lot of this tech is not ready for prime time. And certainly the stakes are too high for it to be tested in the public sector. So the principles themselves, we think first and foremost, we need a process to ensure that people who are impacted by this tech are making the decisions about what the city buys and uses. So whether that's people who are receiving some benefits, whether it's people in communities that feel like they've been over-policed and are concerned about additional surveillance, or the public sector workers are public workers too, who should have a real voice in what gets assigned to them for use. We also want to make sure that this tech is not used to lead to job loss, particularly in the public sector, but it's used to augment what public sector workers are doing to make them more effective and productive in our service. And we need to be really, really careful about how our data is used and shared. The city has rules around not sharing data with ICE, but those rules can be circumvented without incredibly rigorous understanding of how these systems work. So taking both from ITA and from allies around the country who've done similar things, equity is the primary principle by which we should approach our use of this, particularly to be ensuring that bias and harms can be assessed and minimized. And where they can't be minimized, there's tech that we simply should not be using. Facial recognition, which has a terrible record of errors and bias. Programs that claim to analyze people's emotions, and programs that are supposed to predict crime. Co-governance, as I said, ensuring that, and we'll share this, it's in draft form, which is the only reason I didn't bring a copy. Making sure real people are involved in how we use this stuff. And making sure that we are getting the most effective programs and that we're constantly evaluating whether X or Y program is really serving the purpose we pay for. And then human oversight and accountability. So we need to have regular processes for the public to weigh in, and particularly when it comes to decisions around, like, are you going to get supported as a tenant? Are you going to get access to a city benefit? We need to ensure that human beings are in charge of those decisions. We want to make sure that we have transparency in what people call explainability. Like, I, as a non-tech human, need to have an understanding of what the tech is and what data set was used for learning. And safety and privacy, right? So we can make sure that we are really protecting LA's residents. And lastly, and this is something ITA talks about a lot, that we have a human-centered approach that is about supporting existing workers to do a better job rather than replacing them. So I will stop there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Roxana. Super, super eye-opening. I'm a non-tech person, but I also feel anybody who is not thinking about AI, whether in their personal life or in their businesses, is being left behind. We do want to reiterate that we also have presentations from our personnel department which have looked into AI, and for the purposes of efficiency. I think I very much agree that it's not to replace humans, it's to maximize efficiency and make sure that people are getting what they want. However, it is a very dangerous place as well, with data breaches. Where does the data come from? How is it being used? Who's it being sold to? And all it takes is one piece of legislation for that data to be made available, as we've seen in the federal government, with DHS, sharing data with ICE, which we never knew was going to happen. That's really more of a comment from my end, that the city, I know, and hearing from several of the departments, are looking into AI. Very eye-opening that AI can also be discriminatory and have biases. I've never heard that one, but Commissioner Lewis, do you have questions?
No, I'm looking forward to receiving the actual report. I'm like at rapid pace here, trying to write my notes as you're speaking, but I really appreciate this presentation. I share Chair Sanchez's concerns regarding AI, particularly around jobs. I think they should absolutely augment, support, not replace. I'm huge on that. And I won't get into all the reasons why, because we'll be here all day if I do that. But I would like to think that most of us believe that people being gainfully employed and making a livable wage is better for the community versus a bunch of robots or whatever else. I'm probably also a little too much of a movie buff, so I start thinking about the Terminator movie series and all the wrong that can happen. But I appreciate your presentation. I think you made some very sound points, and certainly the commission will take those into account.
And I will say on the ITA's website is their digital code of ethics, which I found really helpful. And again, we want to ensure that we give that the force of law and have those kind of pillars embedded in the charter for future decision makers. Thanks so much for your time.
Appreciate your time. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to working with you. This concludes our speakers for the day. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out to present to us. We're now going to move into public comment. Justin, do we have time for each public comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. With one item on the agenda plus general public comment, folk from the audience can give up to 2 minutes of public comment. I do have a list, which we'll start with. I'll call people 3 at a time and ask for. Oh yeah, first and second. And I'll get to that. Thank you. And then I'll ask you your amount of time to speak, and then I'll also give people 30-second warning for when their time's up. And yes, Madam Chair, if we can get a motion to receive and file.
Yes, I'd like to propose a motion to receive and file today's presentation.
I approve. Yay, it's only me. So
I think without objection, you can.
Without objection, it has been received and filed. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm happy to conduct public comment. I will we'll call 3 people at a time. I'll ask your amount of time, and I will give folks a 30-second warning before their time is up. I will do my best with some of the handwriting here. They're all better than mine, I will say. But I think I've got Aiden, Martinez, Clara, and Rob. Aiden, Clara, and Rob coming up. All right, Aiden, how long would you like?
Up to 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. And start. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Adan Martinez. I'm a resident of Highland Park and a member of the Historic Highland Park Neighborhood Council, but I'm here representing my own interests. I found it difficult to make this statement today because as a trained political scientist, I know that for democratic institutions to be meaningful, they need legitimacy to build trust among citizens. The fact that the City Council can ultimately ignore this Commission's recommendations before they are placed on the ballot is akin to putting a fox in charge of guarding the hen house. It undermines the legitimacy of the process and wastes our time. Can we trust the City Council to implement the measures that the people of LA want, especially if it threatens their power and privilege? I ask this because of the city's history of elected officials who are currently in prison, under investigation, or fined for ethics violations. I remain very skeptical, but I also want to believe that Los Angeles can be different if true leadership emerges that prioritizes the common good above all else. Assuming this true leadership can be found, I support the following 3 measures, which touch on a few of our presenters today. On ethics, we need to empower our watchdogs. We need to strengthen the Ethics Commission's independence and enforcement authority, but most importantly, ban pay-to-play contributions on pending land use matters. On amplification, Los Angeles does not have 15 city council members. It has 15 de facto mayors who hold disproportionate power. We need to expand the number of districts to 25 following Common Cause's recommendation and combine this with an independent community-driven redistricting process. Ideally, this process would empower neighborhood councils to be more than just advisory bodies and enable public financing for city council candidates. On transparency, I fully support Controller Mejio's charter recommendations, specifically allowing the controller to conduct performance audits of other elected officials, establishing an independent budget floor linked to the general fund, and setting minimum qualifications for the office. I hope that these recommendations, along with those of other Angelinos, will be taken seriously, and that we advance a charter that matches the scale and diversity of Los Angeles and puts integrity and transparency at its core. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Glada is next. For how long? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and go.
Sorry. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you coming out. I am a member of the Historic Highland Park Neighborhood Council, but I'm here speaking on my own behalf. I believe you should authorize an ethics commission to place ordinance changes on the ballot. Obviously, we have corruption in our city. The city council can easily take no stand and let ballot recommendations die. So this is a must. If the council does not take action, let the ethics commission place ordinance changes on the ballot. Establish virtual public participation as a permanent option at open government meetings is a must for the public to have a voice. Not having this as an option means people cannot participate. Prohibit the use of campaign funds to pay certain fines. This is a no-brainer. Fines are meaningless if paid by committees. We might as well have no fines. Neighborhood councils, minority communities, the poor, the minority communities, the poor and youth are underrepresented in neighborhood councils. Our historic Highland Park neighborhood council is about 30% Latino in a community that probably is more than 65% Latino. The 2020 census undercounted Latinos. Here are some suggestions. Department of Neighborhood Empowerment done should be mandated to do outreach in languages spoken in our communities.
30 seconds.
They can do PSAs and social media much more easily than neighborhood council members. Dunn must pay for translation at general board meetings in communities where there is more than a certain percentage of the community that is linguistically isolated. Leaving it to neighborhood councils to provide translation means that most meetings are in English only. Non-English speakers turning up at meetings held entirely in English
And
means
thank
they
you.
probably will not return.
2 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Rob, 2 minutes. Alrighty, and go.
I am happy to see we have some food and coffee here, which is great, but I do think we need to make sure we advertise that in social media and email. Organizing 101 is people plan around their stomachs. So if we're not advertising it, it's not bringing them here or keeping them hooked. I am a CD1 resident, and I do find it weird that we only have a committee, just 2 commissioners here today, when a bunch of the wealthier, wider districts all got the full commission in front of them. I think that's fucked up. We have Councilmember Hernandez here, and you might notice she didn't mention the size of the city council. As a candidate, she supported council expansion, but last year she was one of the biggest reasons it did not move forward at the council. Done. I appreciate all of the information. There were requests for that, but that could have been an email. I didn't hear any discussion of actual charter problems that needed charter solutions. The AI presentation, I hate AI. I tentatively will say I will support anything they propose to regulate AI, but we didn't hear recommendations, so maybe it's a little premature to be talking about that. Why are we all here? Because we are frustrated with the dysfunction of City Hall and how it impacts other reasons. We are not here by choice. I got hooked on the City Hall because of fighting for our immigrant rights community, getting the LA Justice Fund off the ground. Now, represent LA. They get $1 million a year. Every year we gotta beg for money. Mayor Baskin gave them $1 million this year.
30 seconds.
And we're pissing away $1 million here with this commission with zero transparency and oversight. That is unacceptable. I think there is this issue here. There is one person leading this commission that doesn't have actually any connectivity with the city of LA and will sleep like a baby when this thing fails because they don't care, unlike everybody else in this room. Lastly, you owe me a CPRA, Justin. Don't make me get a lawyer because I'm gonna have him get at you for a whole bunch of other stuff.
And 2 minutes.
It's been since June.
Thank you. And the next people, I've got Connie, Carolina, and I think it's Taurine. Connie, Carolina, and Taurine. Hello?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, and go.
Hi, I'm Connie Martinez. I serve on the Historic Highland Park Neighborhood Council. I'm speaking as an individual. Although I have concerns about the expansion of City Council without first correcting course, I support the recommendations of Common Cause, particularly regarding public participation. Current models and methods of civic engagement are antiquated and do not utilize available technology to efficiently gather and synthesize input from the majority of Angelenos and instead favor the privileged few. Although I have very serious concerns about AI and the lack of regulation and am not very comfortable with embedding that necessarily in our charter, I am in favor of technology being utilized. Opportunities to cast ballots are limited and costly, and voter turnout is abysmal. This is a known fact. Representative government has its limits, and people are fed up with the year-round campaigning that this model has devolved to, unfortunately. Civic engagement deserves more consideration and space in this charter reform. We must be provided with more resources to educate ourselves on the issues that impact our daily lives, and it should be easier to participate for Angelenos than it is for special interests. Please provide the neighborhood councils with more resources, such as shared regional offices. 20 would help.
30 seconds.
With a menu of professional services, such as web managers and support staff to choose from, that can serve the unique needs of each neighborhood council and consider population density in its budget allocations. Currently, we are held to the same exact standards of city council members and provided with no such support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shirley. How long?
Justin, did you say the maximum was
2.
two? Okay.
And go.
thanks. Good morning, Commissioners. Carolina Goodman with the League of Women Voters of Greater Los Angeles. First, we want to thank you and your staff for working on this critically important task of charter reform and acknowledge the painfully short time frame you have for prioritizing all the possible reforms that could improve our city charter and for identifying which reforms to recommend for the November 2026 ballot. Secondly, from our considerable experience with commissions, we know it's the commission's responsibility to guide staff, not vice versa. It was disappointing to hear that the commission had little or no input for the outreach mini grants or for the community survey. When commissioners ask for a budget update, staff needs to prioritize specifics of how the money's being spent. Finally, the League of Women Voters is focused on good government. We support a well-functioning neighborhood council system that provides valuable input for a well-functioning city government. We believe in strengthening the independence and effectiveness of the Ethics Commission and entreat you to consider seriously the charter reform recommendations being presented today by the Ethics Commission. We strongly agree with recommendations made by California Common Cause regarding ethics and accountability and public participation. Depending upon community feedback, we would support expanding city council to no less than 21 and no more than
30
29.
seconds.
We look forward to the upcoming presentation at the next Personnel Committee meeting on enshrining police reform in the city charter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it right. Taurine, fantastic. Taurine, after Taurine, Michael, Eric, and Conrad. How long would you like?
2 minutes.
And go.
I'm Taurine Spittle. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, but I'm speaking today as an individual. I would urge the Commission to consider neighborhood council reform. When neighborhood councils were created by the last Charter Reform Commission, they were intended to act as a bridge between city residents and the city council, but in practice that really hasn't happened. Currently, NCs can act only in an advisory committee. It appears that in general, the city council members don't take neighborhood councils seriously and pay little attention to their statements and reports about issues in their districts. Not only is this disrespectful to the work put into these reports by the volunteer members of the NC boards, but it also discourages stakeholders from attending NC meetings and bringing issues to the neighborhood councils when they feel there's not going to be any result. This is unfortunate, as neighborhood councils are in a good position to know better what would benefit their stakeholders, and given a larger budget, could act more quickly and with more flexibility to address local issues. Empowered neighborhood councils integrated with an expanded city council would make our city government a lot more responsive to their constituents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And 2 minutes. Go.
Hi, commissioners. So better government happens when more interests are at the table and are represented. And council enlargement obviously is part of that question. And when we think about districts, we're in a national race to the bottom between Texas and California and the other states manipulating because how you draw district lines affects who gets elected. And Prop 50 was a punch back against Trump, but it totally missed the root cause of the limited representation from single seat winner-take-all districts. We could have had a national discussion, and still should be doing, about moving to proportional representation. And that should have been part of Prop 50 as a commitment to that. Because the same issue of the Fed tapes and the limited representation that caused a lot of that fighting over the redistricting process at the time is the same thing that happened nationally. And the independent redistricting that LA has passed is necessary but insufficient, because no matter how you draw the line and no matter how competitive it might be to get those swing voters to help you win a single seat district, there are large percentages of voters that get no representation from all sorts of perspectives in single seat districts. So you can lead the country by recommending
30 seconds.
multi-seat districts elected by proportional representation, and the form of proportional representation for municipal nonpartisan races is using proportional ranked choice voting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I got Eric. 1 or 2 minutes. Go.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Eric Vasquez. I'm the president of the Glassell Park Neighborhood Council, but I'm here on behalf of myself today. I wanted to talk about supports and accountability. So the Congress of Neighborhoods is a great event, but only a handful of people actually attend them from every neighborhood council. You heard the number of people participating in neighborhood councils can be up to 1,800, but that's not the number of people that participate. So I propose that the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment does annual retreats for the neighborhood councils. That way, people who are newly elected into their positions can receive support, and those who may need steering or additional supports halfway through their election cycle can also receive the kind of guidance that they need. That way, we're not just electing leaders, but creating leaders with purpose. I also want to echo what Councilmember Hernandez said earlier about expanding the joint oversight over the LAPD. That way, it's not just the Board of Police Commissioners and not just the mayor, but the City Council also supporting in that role, because they may have a connection to community members on what their priorities are. And lastly, I would advocate that we allow the Ethics Commission to place ballot measures for public consideration, so that recommendations don't just get lost when there's competing interest on the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
2 minutes, please.
2 minutes, and go for it.
Commissioners, I'm Conrad Starr, and I am the chair of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council Charter Reform Committee, but speaking as an individual. So first, thank you, staff. The Zoom audio was really good on my bike ride in. Appreciate the improvement there. Second, looking at the staff report from September 17th. Update, this is 6C, update section 906, certification of neighborhood councils to clarify that bylaws must specify the method officers and board members are selected. Replace everyone who lives, works, or owns property in the area with all stakeholders as defined by city ordinance. I would love to know what city ordinance defines stakeholders as, so we can have a debate about that in our committee and see how that might affect us. Third, if you recall the presentation that Empower LA provided, this is slide 11, it says each neighborhood council receives public funds of $25,000 a year to support their communities. I hope they qualified that. That is a 22% reduction from last year and a 50% reduction from where we started at the start of the neighborhood council system. There is no city department that is mandated to advocate for our budgets based on our actual stated needs. Neighborhood councils have maybe the ability to suggest what the budget should be, but we don't actually have a seat at that table, unlike every other city department that advocates for its own budget.
30 seconds.
Perhaps this could be addressed through the structural changes that the Charter Commission is going to propose to City Council, so that it is not a benevolent Department of Neighborhood Empowerment advocating on our behalf when they want to. It's a person who actually listens to us and collects our input and makes an official request to the city at budget time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next three, I got Catherine, Kelly, and Amy. Catherine, Kelly, and Amy. Catherine? Yeah. And how many minutes? 2 minutes. All right, go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine Carreño. I was born in Gazo Park and now live in Westlake. So I wanted to just back the people-only contributions. I think that is very important. And also in regards to city council meetings, I'm a paralegal, so I work a 9 to 5. It is very difficult for me to attend the city council meetings without taking time off, of course. And I want to just support that we either have at least one weekend meeting or an evening meeting. And also I support the mention of allowing remote public comment. And I also want to ask for at least a once a month town hall with the mayor to listen and respond to her constituents, or maybe even a quarterly town hall. And I also support the smaller and more districts, especially since living in District 1, living in Westlake, the needs of my community are completely different from the needs of Highland Park, and they are in the very same district. I also want to speak about the police commissioner committees and how would the ethics committee differ from that. I have attended some police commissioner meetings and also the city council meetings, and it's like talking to a wall. They don't give time for any of the council members or committee members to respond or let us know what they're doing.
30 seconds.
And also, just in general, I want to support the enforcing of our sanctuary city laws and to stop LAPD working with ICE and DHS. I have been on the ground and have seen that in person on numerous occasions, although we are a sanctuary city. And that is all I have for right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kelly. Hello.
Hi, I'm Kelly Cole. I'm Vice President of the Greater Chinook Lake Neighborhood
1
Council.
to 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Go.
I'm in my fourth term on the Neighborhood Council. I'm here as an individual, however. Asking Carmen, Chang, and Dunn if they think the neighborhood councils are a success is, to paraphrase one of my colleagues out here, the same as asking the fox if the hens are safe. You know, the 26 years in, and the average Angelino has no idea what a neighborhood council is. If you open up a Dunn brochure, it takes the 5th page to get in the brochure for them to mention neighborhood councils. Carmen stood up here and took credit for the Congress of Neighborhoods. Dunn does not organize it or pay for it. It's paid for by our budgets, which are actually in inflation-adjusted dollars, 26%. Well, I'll say, 26%, 25.7% of what they were when we were launched. To this day, there is no clearinghouse for best practices. There's no clearinghouse, there's no celebration of what neighborhood councils have done that have worked well, or solutions they've had to problems, because Dunn puts no energy whatsoever into actually supporting the neighborhood councils. They police the councils, they justify their own existence. Frankly, AI could do 80% of their job. They actually should be clerks that support the elected people who change over every 2 to 4 years. And they should be the clerks that are doing the difficult stuff, communicating with the city clerk's department, things like that, so that we don't have to spend time learning that. So we can be out doing the outreach they should be doing in the first place. So Dunn needs to be reformed. for the neighborhood councils to have the effective role they were meant to have. It's based on the community boards of New York City. There's 59 of those, 59 of those. They work great. Done is the problem here.
Thank you so much.
The
2
organization
minutes.
even has 2 titles. So that's what needs to be reformed.
Okay, Amy. After Amy, I've got Nick, Irene, and Lionel. Nick, Irene, and Lionel line up after Amy. Amy, hello. 2 minutes, go.
I generally support the broad introduction to the impact of technology. Legislation can't keep up with technology at all, and this is something I really care about. For example, touch screens being in cars and replacing tactile inputs is something that should never have been allowed. I hope that their future presentation has actual charter recommendations, but I am concerned about whether this commission has time to cover this so late in the process. I would like to see LA be a leader in enacting regulation that impacts what companies are allowed to release to the public, but this might not be possible to achieve at the local level. We would likely have to push for this at the state level. However, some kind of technology oversight committee would be phenomenal. If that is the recommendation, that is what I hope you can have time to push for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nicholas, 1 or 2 minutes.
2 minutes, please.
Alrighty, and go.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Nicholas Caputo. I'm the founder of Livable Advanced Los Angeles, a nonprofit dedicated to building better government in a more urban, connected city across LA's multiple cores. I also serve as a neighborhood council member in Echo Park, and I'm here to present 7 of the 26 recommendations for our organization as prepared for this commission. First, on council size. I strongly support expanding the city council so that no district contains more than 135,000 residents, roughly 29 districts today. Smaller, more focused districts allow for true neighborhood specialists to represent their communities, so downtown can have its own council member, Northeast LA can have its own, and every part of the city can have someone who truly knows and serves it. Most council members say they're comfortable with district sizes in the 20s, and 29 gives us the most representation and diversity for our effort. By tying council size to population instead of a fixed number, we can get an automatic resizing system, future-proof and fair. Second, ethics and accountability. Violations must have real, final consequences. When the Ethics Commission finds wrongdoing, its penalties should be non-appealable. The Commission should also have the authority to place ethics and campaign finance reforms directly on the ballot without waiting for City Hall to act. Third, campaign finance. We must ban campaign contributions from anyone with pending or foreseeable business before the city. Developers, contractors, lobbyists, and their affiliates. Money should never dictate access. Fourth, departmental accountability. When a city department is sued, for example, the police department, payouts should come from that department's own budget, not the city's general fund. Accountability must be structural, not spread across taxpayers who had nothing to do with the misconduct. Fifth, empower neighborhood councils. When a neighborhood council system, by majority vote, suspects corruption for serious misconduct by its council member, it should have the ability to trigger an independent ethics investigation. Sixth, public participation democracy. Every public meeting should have virtual public comment. And finally, continuous reform. The charter should require a charter reform commission every 10 years. Change in Los Angeles is moving faster than ever, and we need to be proactive, not reactive, to structuring our government to meet that future. We really can have it all, the density, the creativity, the democracy, but we have to organize it so that we do. This may be our only real window for reform for decades, so let's take big swings. More representation, stronger ethics, real accountability.
Thank you, in 2 minutes.
Modern democracy. Thank you.
Irene. And then after Irene is Lionel. 1 or 2 minutes, Irene? 2 minutes, perfect. Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for attending the meeting. I'm from CD 1 and 14. Excuse me. And I'm here to talk about, and I'm here as a private citizen and as a city employee. So this is regarding the city charter section 1060, where it deals with sworn, and this is LAPD and LAFD. I would like that to be changed. Currently, for any complaints or disciplinary actions, there's a 1-year statute of limitation, and I would like that to be changed to 3 years in accordance and aligned with the California Civil Rights Department. I had a personal grievance with LAFD, which is Los Angeles City Fire Department, and I only had that 1-year window but by the time I submitted my complaint, etc., it was already close to a year. So that window of 1 year that's allowed per the city charter section 1060 didn't allow me enough time to continue with my complaint. So I had to go to the other source, which was the California Civil Rights section. So I would really like that to be changed in the charter. Instead of a 1 year window, let it be 3 year window, and that gives the individual, whether you're a private citizen or employee, in this instance it was myself, I didn't have that time to continue with my complaint against the fire department. So I would really appreciate if you would reconsider and have it more aligned with the California Civil Rights policy and procedure of a 3 year window instead of a 1 year window. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. LAANE, 1 or 2 minutes.
2 minutes, please.
And go.
McMorris, Neighborhood Council Budget Advocate and Budget Rep for Foothills Trails Neighborhood Council, speaking on my own behalf. Thank you for being here. I would like to echo the concerns by Roxana, by everyone else on this attending here. Your concerns about city council reform, police reform, charter reform, because I've attended city council meetings, for example, and I've seen people speak from their hearts. And the city council are just ignoring them. They're on their phones. They're talking among themselves. The staff are not, paying attention. Doesn't seem like it. And I do pay attention to the concerned community, and the city council should be mandated to pay attention, to stay there on their seats when people are speaking. The people have the right to speak. This is a democracy, and people need to be heard. And I think the Charter Reform Commission should look into ways into mandating the city council and their staff to pay attention. Because I was there during lunch break, and I heard somebody speaking about what the police did to them, to journalists. And it's really, they speak from their heart, they're speaking from the truth, because I've seen video evidence. So the Charter Reform should demand the city council, and that city council should do more to help the people. And I also support Chang McMorris from Common Cause, because I do support ethics reform to strengthen ethics, to make sure city council elected officials are held accountable and to the people, and that they follow the law and the city charter. And thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lionel. That concludes people who signed up. Was there anyone else who missed the sign-up sheet that would like to make a public comment? I want to make sure everyone got a chance. Alrighty, thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes public comment for this.
Thank you, Executive Director. This concludes this committee meeting for today. I want to thank again everybody who participated. Do we have dates for our next meetings, and or am I missing anything?
Sorry. November 20th at 2 p.m. at City Hall in room 1060. We're back on the 10th floor, which is easier for committees than the Board of Public Works. I know that for sure.
What time is it again?
At 2 p.m.
Got it, thank you.
And then, do we have one? And just for everyone's awareness, we also have a government structure committee meeting on Wednesday, the 12th. That will be at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. at Pierce College. Again, back out in the community. Will be at 2 p.m. at Pierce College, and we look forward to that government structure meeting. That agenda is already on the website. And with that, it's up to you for adjournment.
Aye. Any further questions, Commissioner Lewis?
No.
Thank you. Thanks again to everybody for your participation. Look forward to seeing you again. And this adjourns today's meeting.
Thank you.